Let's talk about Iran itself and what comes after the killing of the supreme leader. Ali Khamenei served almost 37 years as the top official. Big questions now about what comes next. At this point, the current regime remains in place. It is the vice president of Iran who says the government will continue without interruption, despite the loss, the killing of several senior figures. One cleric has been appointed as interim leader until a successor is identified. President Trump urged Iranians to take back their country. Despite ongoing U.S. and Israeli airstrikes, there is no sign the government is about to fall. Let's get some insight into all of this with Daniel Block, who's senior editor at Foreign Affairs. It's an American foreign policy and global affairs magazine. Daniel, good morning to you.
Good morning.
I do want to talk about a number of aspects here, but we have been talking over the weekend about the president's calls for Iranians to essentially take matters into their own hands, to seize this opportunity and take back their government. Why is that much harder than it would sound?
Sure. So there's a few reasons why that's going to be very difficult. And I'll just start by pointing out that an aerial bombing campaign has never in history incited a successful uprising against a government. So just historically, the odds are really against this happening. And there's two reasons why it's never succeeded, both of which apply to Iran. And then there's a third reason why it's particularly unlikely to happen in Iran's case. The first is simply that almost no matter how much you hate your leader, if your country is bombed, it weakens the opposition because you just don't really want to be seen as being on the same side as the people who are attacking your state. Now, there are exceptions. Again, if your leader is particularly despised, there are some people who don't feel squeamish about siding with the attacking power. And certainly there are people like that in Iran who are just so desperate and so fed up with Khamenei's leadership that they're okay with this or perhaps even welcome this. But the other reason is that it's incredibly difficult to actually bomb out all of a state's repressive capacity. You really need to have troops on the ground in order to get rid of small arms, in order to get rid of all the bombs, really everything you need in order to stamp out the government's ability to put down protests. And Iran has substantial repressive capacity. It killed 30,000 protesters in December and January. And then the final thing I think that's worth noting in Iran's case is Iran's opposition is very weak. It's very divided. The government, again, because it has such strong repressive capacity, was very effective at stamping it out and locking up opponents. And again, a lot of the opponents of the regime, they don't really get along with each other. So it's hard to see how they'd be able to coordinate in the midst of chaos, even after the bombings is done, to take down the government and then figure out who should take charge afterward.
And that is the core question, Daniel. If it is not to be the regime, then who will it be? And I need not tell you about the degree of difference of opinion, both inside Iran and among the Iranian diaspora outside of the country. There's been talk, for instance, of the son of the former leader coming back in some way. Some people are really into it. Others are deeply opposed to it. Is there any candidate or pathway that would be unifying for Iran?
Right now, unfortunately, no, there's no apparent unifying pathway. And I'll talk a little bit about the son of the former Shah, if you don't mind, because I think he really illustrates some of the challenging dynamics. So Reza Pahlavi, first, it's worth noting he hasn't been to Iran in 45 years. He's very much a part of the diaspora. And it's really hard to say how much support he has within Iran itself. We clearly know he has a large following among the diaspora, but again, there's by definition some distance between the diaspora and Iran. Now, there are videos that have come out of people chanting his name at protests, saying that they want the Shah back. We don't know how widespread that sentiment is. We don't know how deep and serious it is, in that people might simply be chanting his name to some extent because they're nostalgic for his father and he has high name recognition. And then the final thing that, again, I think is so illustrative of this dynamic is he's an incredibly polarizing figure within the diaspora. There are people, as you said correctly, who really want him to come back. There are people who really hate him. And a lot of his followers engage in pretty vicious trolling online of people who oppose him. So he's a very polarizing figure. And that's true of most of the major kind of Iranian opposition figures to some extent or another. They're either not really well known, or if they are well known or have a following, they're highly controversial.
Daniel Block, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.